Okay, in this tutorial, what I'm going to be doing is creating a simple animated object to fly around the screen, and I've chosen to do a cartoon style UFO. So I'm just going to add a simple mesh of the UFO, and I'm going to scale it in the not X direction, Z direction, so it's sort of flat and UFO shaped. And let's squish it down a little. There. So that gives me a kind of UFO shape to work with. And the goal here is that I'm adding a bunch of objects, and I'm really trying to get it so that we can actually combine objects together and separate them. So learning how to use the various mesh tools to get things happening. And then I want a series of little dots around the outside. So what do I add? More spherical things, I suspect. Looking from above, I'm going to scale that down, grab just in the Y direction. Now there used to be a wonderful little thing called the spin modifier. Scale it down even more so it's a little bump. So yep, that you could select and go, hey, duplicate this and spin it all over the place. We might just have to get away with nothing really. So the easiest way to do this is to use an alternate pivot point, but I'm just going to do Shift D to duplicate and place, whoops, wrong button, Shift D to duplicate that one, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, and I wanted 6 around the outside, and yes, now I've got 7. Isn't that wonderful? Alright, X to get rid of those. So I have the little dots on my alien spaceship. Not perfectly done, but who cares? Now I'm just going to select the whole lot with the selection tool. And I'm going to join all these together. Now Control J allows you to join all these meshes into one. At least I hope it does. Join. Maybe you have to do them one at a time. Join. Join. Okay, I'm doing it backwards. So the second object you select is what everything gets joined to, or the last object hopefully. So if I go join, they all get joined to the one sphere. So I'm going to rename this sphere UFO so we know what it is and it's obvious in our collection of stuff. And that, you think, would be where it stops. But if I don't like the fact that, I don't know, one of these bumps is in the wrong place or stuff, I can actually, again, go into edit mode, like with the text stuff I've done, and select a single vertex of that sphere there and go Control L for everything that's linked to it. And my keyboard shortcuts are considered. And then I can separate them, are hidden. But yeah. So I hit P to separate by selection. I can do by selection by material or by loose parts. And I can separate it. Tabbing out, I've got 2 separate objects. I'm actually going to join them back together because that's what I wanted. Control J. And that's done. Now I actually need to put in some colors and make this a little more interesting. And I did that a little bit with the Star Wars tutorial. But this time I'm going to add a material, and we're going to edit things so that it shows up in different colors. So the first material, I'm just going to edit mode, this is going to be my base material. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it matte.base, because it's my basic material. That way I know what it is. And I'm going to make it a funky color. So let's go UFOs. What color should UFOs be? Probably a dark blue. Disappear into the night sky and that sort of stuff. I'm going to make it somewhat metallic. Now I can't see anything happening here, so as always, in the viewport shading, switch to render mode and you'll be able to see it. So this is starting to get there. So yeah, it's got the metallic tint. I'm going to make it not rough because the lack of roughness makes it more reflective. Now because we don't have a background, you won't see it, but hey, the thought is there. And that's pretty much it. And because we're in edit mode, we get the option of assigning or selecting. So if I go everything, which is A, I can assign it. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to add a second material. And this material is going to be just that dome bit. So I've just selected the top of the dome and hit Control L. So anything that's linked to that initial vertex I selected is also done. And if I go into wireframe mode, you can see what's happening because it's just a bunch of spheres put together. Back to rendered mode so we can actually see what the final result will look like. Now this should be, I don't know, probably a fairly dark material because it's meant to be the coloured in UFO dome glassy thing. So that should do all that. Alright, so, and then we need to assign it before I forget. So I've selected it, I assign it, and that then becomes a different colour. Now, yeah, oh good, you can see it. I'm going to go around and select all of these little domey things, Control L for the linked, and now I'm going to make these things glow. This is going to take a different material, so I'm just going to add a third material. Actually, this one should be called matte.dome. And this final material is going to be matte.glow. So I'm going to put some glowing lights on my UFO, because everything needs glowing lights, basically. I'm not going to worry about the base colour, although I probably should. I'm just going to worry about the emission colour. And I'm going to make it a sort of yellow. That way it will stand out. As always, make sure it's assigned, and there we get it. So now my UFO is broken into separate parts. If I wanted to, I could actually, just pressing 3 for the face selection, I could actually just go holding down Shift to select individual faces here and assign yet another material and call this matte.running lights, for want of a better thing, and make that into, I don't know, light blue, and then assign it to those, and you can see that it's instantly changed. And this is sort of getting more into the process of making things look good. Oops, that's getting a bit close. And you know, this obviously is a fairly simple little process. And it crashed on me. Wonderful. I'm going to stop there and restart. Alright, I've just gone through and recreated this thing after the crash, which reminds me of my first and most fundamental rule, which is save early, save often. That way you make sure you've got what you need so you can keep working on it. So this object has been created. It's wonderful. It's the little UFO that I was talking about earlier. It's got little dots on the surface. They're a little smaller than the last version, but that's okay. Oops, wrong key. And I should enable the keyboard shortcuts just so that you can see what is going on. So get rid of that. Then looking through the camera, we can see the UFO is doing its thing. And then I think in the tutorial I want 5 seconds of animation. So again, this is, you know, it's a UFO, so we'll just lock it into everything actually. And then move it around, do some weird things with it. So we just grab it and slide it off this direction and insert everything, and then grab it, moving it the next frame, so it's there, it's out of shot, 45, not 46. Grab it, slide it to the other side, and lock in the location, and then jump into wherever and grab it and drop it back in the center. Now I'm just guessing it's the center location, but if I really wanted to, I could probably duplicate that frame and dump it over here, or actually just grab the location, because if I go to here and look in this object data, we know it's zeroed out. If I go over to here and look, oh, it's not quite zeroed out, so I can go 0, 0, 0, done, and I can go insert everything. And then of course, just to add some extra randomness, I can go rotate, rotate X direction. Let's go, I don't know, type in 67 just as a number, and then lock that in as a rotation, and then it'll do funky things. You can see it's sort of spinning there as it flies off, and then it spins back, and then it jumps over to the other side and will fly in. So where it's over here, I might want to fake distance, so I might insert a scaling option and then scale this down to, let's go 0.5, which I've just typed into the keyboard, and then insert that scaling, and then when we get to this frame, scale the opposite of 0.5, it would be 2, because it's half the size, then twice the size, and then lock that in with scaling, and then it crashed again. Wonderful. And I didn't save any of that. But you see, get the idea anyway. So I'm going to stop here and save this. Alright, I'm going to leave this as it is. I'm not going to animate it again for you guys, but you've got the idea of what I'm trying to do. Obviously, displaying it in render mode and that sort of stuff, since this is a release candidate, gets a little glitchy. Hopefully they'll get that panned out and sorted out shortly, because they're really working on Blender 2.8 at the moment. So yeah, anyhow, I'll continue this up with the next tutorial in a little bit. But the real core idea here is to get this sort of thing created and then animated, and make sure you save a lot through the process.